Now, I know the group stages are still taking place, but we have enough data and enough teams through to start identifying which teams and which players we should be looking to bring into our sides for Matchday 4. Now, before we dive into the video, I just want to say that we're super close to hitting 5,000 subscribers, so if you do want to help the channel out, be sure to like, comment, and of course, being subscribed to help us hit that milestone. Now, before we go and take a look at any players, I think it is important to take a look at the tournament tree or how it is kind of progressing so far. Obviously, there's still games to take place tomorrow evening, so some things still need to be finalized. Obviously, it's the Belgium group where a lot of things can still obviously happen. But on paper at the moment, it is looking like the left-hand side, which will contain Spain, Germany, Portugal, and France, is going to be the more kind of difficult side of the group. So probably on paper, we're probably looking at max 2 players-ish from each of these sides. And obviously there's a lot of top sides in here with a lot of top quality players as well. So that does mean if you're in a position like me where you've already played the wildcard, you've already played the Limitless, you could have a slight problem here and we might be in a little bit of a tricky position. So we've got to get these picks accurate when we're picking players from those sides. Moving on to the other side of the draw, it looks quite nice, especially from an England standpoint, to be honest. It looks like we're going to play Holland or Netherlands in the round of 16. Then it's a toss-up between Switzerland and Italy. Up top, you've got Austria, you've got Turkey potentially, you've got Slovenia potentially, and Belgium potentially as well. So a lot of this side is still TBC at the moment, but we know England are definitely going to be on this kind of nicer side of the draw. So definitely a team to potentially consider with some of our players. If Belgium, obviously, you know, go and do well, they top their group as well. Which we're all expecting them to go and do tomorrow, but you never know what could happen in international football. So them being on that side as well could make things very, very tasty. In England, maybe, you know, a couple Swiss and Italian players and Belgian players definitely should be on the menu. But I think it is important to know which teams we should be looking to target before we go and take a look at some players. Starting off with team number 1, it is going to be England. Obviously, if that group does pan out, like everything is kind of falling into place with the final group games taking place tomorrow, then it means England theoretically have quite a nice run to the final. Now, performance-wise, it's been very, very disappointing. But something that I wanted to point out was the defensive data that England have been putting up. Now, it also goes in the opposite way as well, as you can see. Attacking-wise, it's not really been there, and you can definitely see it from an eye test perspective as well. England are very, very dull on the eye. From a kind of FPL or a Euro Fantasy perspective, I wouldn't be looking to have any England attackers in my side. I don't think Kane's there. I don't think Bellingham's there. Saka, Foden. For me, I think there are better options that have higher upside. Yes, they're probably more likely to go out maybe, but I think they've got a bit of a higher upside than these guys because England offensively so far have looked very null and void. Whether or not that can change when, you know, England start to face harder opponents, games get a little bit more important. But at the moment, I'm not looking at any England attackers. Interestingly, though, I am looking at quite a lot of England defenders. As you can see here, the highest XG conceded across the whole group game was against Denmark with a 0.82. But other than that, against Slovenia, 0.18, and Serbia, 0.13. So England defensively looking very, very strong. Only conceded 1 goal as well in the whole of the group stage. So for me, I think the defensive options are definitely on the table. Pickford is a very, very solid goalkeeper shout. John Stones is a pretty good defender, but for me, Mark Gahey at 4.5 million is the standout one. He is an absolute mega fiend at ball recoveries and definitely a player you should be considering. And then I put Kieran Trippier in here as well. He's on a lot of the free kicks, corners, set pieces, stuff like that. So obviously, you know, FPL kind of wise, I think that does matter, but I'm slightly with this game mode leaning more towards the players that do get the ball recoveries. And for me, that is Mark Gahey. He is the number 1 option for me if you're looking for an England player for the round of 16 and further into the tournament if England do progress. Mark Gahey is going to be the one. England are putting up good, like I said, data team-wise, and he's also been an absolute gem at picking up those ball recoveries. Sticking with the right-hand side of the draw, we're going to move over to the Austria team, and there's 2 players that I have outlined that have definitely caught my eye so far in the group stage. It is Sabitzer, who used to play for Manchester United, and Baumgartner as well. These 2 lads, they've been cooking up some good stuff for Austria and a pretty difficult group, to be honest, as well, especially in the game today. They look very, very good. I thought they put in a really, really strong performance against France. And then Poland as well was where they really shone. And obviously, you know, if Belgium are on that side up there with them, but if they're playing Turkey, like, realistically, I think they could beat Turkey. I've not been overly impressed with them so far in the tournament, and these two guys have been the standout performers from Austria. I've had Sabitzer in my Bet365 fantasy, been very happy with his output as well, and Baumgartner as well, as you can see, putting up some pretty good numbers to go with that. Obviously, looking at the standout one for me at the moment, it is going to be Sabitzer. Obviously, hasn't got an assist like Baumgartner has, but he's only 1 point behind him because he is a little bit better at ball recoveries. If you did play Champions League Fantasy as well this year, he was an absolute mega man at ball recoveries as well, and has slightly higher expected goal involvement than Baumgartner, but I definitely think these two from the Austria side could be very, very decent pickups for your round of 16 side. Moving on to the harder side of the draw, we're going to start off with Spain. Obviously, they've been kind of one of the most impressive teams so far at the tournament, and I definitely feel a lot of people will be looking at their assets. For me, I think there's a few assets that I'm potentially considering. These are the four that I've got so far. Maybe Morata fits in there, maybe Ferran Torres, but they're definitely kind of more on the fringe side of the picks, to be honest. I think Unai Simon as a goalkeeper pick could be pretty decent as well, but we're going to, I think, defensively, I would prefer going for Dani Carvajal and Marc Cucurella. It looks like Marc Cucurella is the kind of first choice left back for this Spanish side as well. He's obviously been an absolute menace, as you can see, with the ball recovery. 16 ball recoveries for him, absolutely immense stuff. In terms of his kind of expected data between him and Dani Carvajal, there isn't too much to split the two, and I think for that extra saving you get with Cucurella being at 4.5 million, he could be a little bit of a gem if you are potentially struggling for some budget as well. But obviously, Grimaldo had a great game in Matchday 3. He did quite well on the ball recovery front and looked very good from an attacking standpoint. But I do feel when these games are getting a little bit more difficult, I feel Cucurella is going to be the first choice one. So I definitely think for 4.5 million, he could be a very, very decent pickup. Nico Williams, I think, is a player that's currently going under the radar. Only 9 points for him so far, only 3 ball recoveries, but his expected data has been pretty decent and managed to pick up the Man of the Match award in the second match against Italy, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the one he picked it up in. I'm pretty confident on that one. Obviously, yet to get himself on the score sheet or pick up an attacking return for his side, but he is down as a midfielder, which I do think is a little bit of a blessing, because if Belgium get through, I feel that's Lukaku's spot secured. If you want to take a gamble on Harry Kane with them being on the right side, that's a gamble there. You've also got Cristiano Ronaldo, and then obviously you've got Kylian Mbappe, who most people are going to own for the knockout stages of this game. So Nico Williams is a nice way to get into that Spanish attack and not use up one of the forward spots. So I think he could be quite a popular pick with kind of in the community and people that are basically a little bit more in the know, to be honest. So I think he could be a decent one. Maybe take a little bit of a look for him yourself as well. And then obviously finally it is Yamal. His data is pretty decent as well. Obviously 1 assist so far. Been very, very impressed with him. But the problem I just said with the advantage of Nico Williams is the fact that he is a forward. That is his downfall to me, to be honest. There are so many better forwards in the game. If he was down as a midfielder, I don't think it would be up for discussion about having this man in your side for the knockout stages of this tournament. But because he is down as a forward, I do think that puts him out of a lot of kind of contention with so many other better assets kind of within that position. Moving on to our next team, it is going to be Portugal, a team kind of, you know, yet to properly confirm themselves into the next round. Obviously, they've got one more game happening in Matchday 3, but they're pretty much through. Like, I think 99% sure they're through already. I don't think there's anything that could potentially knock them out, but we've included them. They've been very, very impressive in their opening 2 games. Lots of good attacking data from their players. Defensive-wise as well, definitely catching the eye for me. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo are probably going to be the main kind of appeals from this side. Both of them have been cooking so far are in the opening stages of this tournament as well. And as you can see, Cristiano Ronaldo's data and Bruno Fernandes's data is pretty exceptional, to be honest. And with them both playing tomorrow as well, or today, whenever this video goes out, I think those two could be very, very decent pickups as well. I think they're going to be in a lot of people's teams, to be honest. And, you know, there's very, very good reason for that. The only problem is Portugal are on that more difficult side of the draw, but I think those two are the top two assets to go for from that Portugal side. Moving on to the defensive side, I definitely feel, you know, Portugal have been very good from a defensive standpoint in terms of expected goals conceded and from just overall watching their games. Now, I feel you've got two avenues to potentially go down with this one. You could go for Mendes, you could go for Cancelo. They're the more attacking fullbacks, which in regular FPL makes sense. You go for the players that get into the positions, pick up the expected data, and get attacking opportunities. But with this game, it seems like ball recoveries are just a little bit of a cheat code, to be honest, and just they're a little bit more common to come by than those attacking returns we usually get from kind of a longer duration in FPL, kind of the season being a little bit longer. You have the probability of these defenders getting the attacking returns more often. That's not the case in international football or this game mode. I'm finding it is the centre-backs, it is these defenders that get high ball recovery numbers, and I think for 5 million, Pepe could be the man that could be a little bit of a steal if you are looking for a nice, easy way into that Portugal defence. 17 ball recoveries so far for him. He is the highest on the team, which is absolutely immense considering he is 41 years old as well. But I think he could be the way, if you wanted to get into that Portugal defence, I think he could be a brilliant little asset to go for. And then finally, I've put Bernardo Silva here. Maybe you're not kind of convinced by Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes. I don't know why you wouldn't be. But Bernardo Silva makes it in here as the potential differential option if you're not too keen on the other two. But I don't understand why you would be. Okay-ish good kind of, you know, data-wise. Ball recovery numbers are pretty piss poor. So I don't think he's kind of exceptional in that way. And for me, I just prefer going for Cristiano Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes over him. Moving on to Germany, obviously a team that a lot of us loaded up on in the group stage because, you know, they were one of the best teams to watch, one of the most attacking teams as well, and had plenty of high quality assets to pick from. Obviously now they're entering the knockout stages. It's not the easiest run to the final for Germany. Obviously they are on the harder side of the draw, but I still think a lot of us might be going for some of their attacking options, to be honest. Musiala currently one of the leading kind of candidates for the Golden Boot race in this tournament as well. 2 goals for him, 23 points. His data's okay, but I think the big problem with him is he does come off around the 60th to 70th minute. Same goes for Florian Wirtz as well. Both of those players, yes, they are good options, but for me personally, I prefer going for Ilkay Gundogan. He takes a lot more of the corners and free kicks and stuff, and we're still having that debate around whether or not he's going to be on penalties. And obviously that leads in quite nicely as well to the fact that Kai Havertz might not be starting in the kind of forward line for Germany, which might potentially switch the penalties back to Ilkay Gundogan anyway. So I think if you were to go for a midfield option from Germany, I think you're best saving yourself a little bit of money and picking up Ilkay Gundogan rather than going for Musiala and Wirtz. Both of these players are a little bit more prone to earlier substitutions than Ilkay Gundogan so far in the tournament. Obviously that's not kind of going to be the trend continuing, but it's just potentially something to consider with that one as well. I've got Füllkrug in here because a lot of the Germany kind of media and fans have been calling for this guy to play, and both times he's came off the bench he has managed to get himself on the score sheet. A lot of people want to see him in the starting lineup over Kai Havertz, and I do feel with it being a little bit of a disappointing performance against Switzerland in the final group game for Germany, we could see a potential change in the front line, and Füllkrug could be a nice differential option. Again, though, I do feel there's a lot of quality and competition within this front line, especially with us only having 3 attackers. So I don't think for me personally he's going to make it in, but he is a player that is potentially on my radar if I was looking for a Germany attacker. But I do feel like Ilkay Gundogan is the go-to man. And then Mittelstadt at 4 million, again, he's been pretty exceptional, hasn't he, to be honest? Obviously, his data has been pretty good. Jonathan Tah being suspended, I think that makes Mittelstadt the standout cheap defender to go for from Germany. You do have Schlotterbeck, who's probably going to play centre-back, and Antonio Rudiger as well. You've also got Neuer as one of the goalkeeper options, but I do feel there are plenty of other better goalkeeper options, the like of Costa, Unai Simon, and obviously Jordan Pickford, that for me just outwedge Neuer, so that's why I've not included him on this list. And I think if I was to go for a defender, I'd go for Mittelstadt. He's been pretty decent, he gets into really good positions, and his ball recovery numbers are not the worst in the world. And the final team, I think a lot of people will be potentially looking at targeting. It is going to be France. Again, though, they are on this difficult side of the draw, so it is going to be a little bit hard to potentially predict whether or not they're going to kind of make it longer term throughout the tournament. And if, like I said at the start of the video, you're somebody like me that's already used your wildcard and Limitless, you might only want one or two of these players from this national side to obviously stop yourself having, you know, players not available later in the tournament. Obviously, Kylian Mbappe, I feel, is probably going to be a must for most people. Pretty good expected goal involvement, to be honest. 2.41. I know he had a penalty today, but he had plenty of other opportunities against Poland. It does look like he's back and he's fully fit and available and firing, so I think he'll start to kick on in the latter stages of this tournament as well. So definitely a player I would be pretty much verging on the words of essential for your drafts in match day 4. And N'Golo Kante is the standout pick from midfield, mainly because of the ball recovery numbers and picking up man of the match. It seems like midfielders that kind of get involved a lot around the games, the likes of Granit Xhaka, Eriksen picked it up today as well. You've got N'Golo Kante, who's picked up 2 man of the match awards. These guys that get ball recoveries, are just playing the passes, moving the ball around, covering a lot of ground. They seem to be the guys that are a little bit of a magnet for the points in kind of midfield. So maybe if you're looking for a cheaper option, N'Golo Kante could be a man with decent ball recovery numbers, which I only expect to increase when he plays better opposition and has that slight potential of picking up those man of the match awards as well. Other players I wanted to kind of point out were Jules Koundé and Theo Hernandez. And again, it goes back to this thing of, if we're playing FPL, we're obviously going to look at Theo Hernandez. From an eye test perspective, he's getting in the right areas. He's creating good data, as you can see as well. Absolutely smashing it out of the park compared to Jules Koundé. But he's not picking up the points. And who is picking up the points is Jules Koundé with those ball recoveries. And like I said, for me personally, I feel Theo Hernandez has been extremely unlucky, especially in the game against Poland today. Had a great opportunity. But Jules Koundé is just being a very consistent player. Despite not getting a clean sheet today, he managed to pick up 4 points because of the ball recoveries. Theo Hernandez, only 2 points for him. It's these slight advantages that could potentially, you know, make the rank a little bit better at the end of the season, or, you know, edge out one of your mates in your mini leagues as well. So I do think if I was to pick a France defender, it probably would be between William Saliba, Upamecano, or Jules Koundé, just because they get more ball recoveries than Theo Hernandez. Those were my players I'm potentially looking at for match day 2. I will have other videos coming out on the channel, my draft, and then obviously my team selection. There'll be plenty of streams as well over the weekend. So if you're a little bit unsure what to do, I will have you covered there. But thank you very much for watching today, guys, and good luck in match day 4.